are bold, you are fearless, you are radiant. It's time to unlock the diamond from within. BFF, we rise above, stronger together, we shine with love. Faith unshaken, hearts on fire, fearless souls, we're reaching high.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the BFF Empowerment Podcast. I am your host, Black Diamond, and we're going to start off, as our usual, our check in to see what's been going on.
What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in. What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in.
All right, so let's see. Um, so I am almost done working on my third EP album entitled Writing on the Wall. So I've been working on some songs. I got about two more songs to finish with that, then that will be ready for you guys to listen to. Also still working on the book with my illustrator. Um, Hoping to have Braille's Superpower to be released sometime in mm, August, September, around that time, in time for Meet the Blind Month. And lastly, I know I'm about a decade and a half or so late, but I've been finding myself addicted to watching the have and the have nots lately. So we're really enjoying that show, enjoying the drama, because that's the only kind of drama I like is through someone else's life. So that's actually all I've been up to lately. I hope you guys have been having a good week so far, a good day. Hope people have been being kind to you, and I hope you're ready for a good show. All right. So today, wanted to do a special Father's Day episode for all of you dads out there, dad figures, father figures, godfathers, grandfathers, any of you out there who are playing the active father role in someone's life. I know usually dads get overlooked, overshadowed by moms. Moms are kind of always the ones put on front and center. You know, look at me, I'm a super mom. So I wanted to kind of dedicate this episode to the dads in honor of Father's Day. To let you guys know that we see you and we appreciate you as well. So, joining me today, I have my special guest, Mr. Joey Ortiz, who is a single father. And so, most people, when they think of single parenting, it's always a single mom. So, I wanted to get an opportunity to actually sit down with someone who is a single parent, but he just happens to be a single dad. So, welcome, Mr. Joey, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to be a part of the podcast and be on this episode with you. And I'm also happy to share my experience as a single dad and be willing to answer any questions that you have and see. Yeah, it's looking forward to a wonderful episode.
Thank you, thank you. Sound so professional. Look at you. All right, let's jump right on in. So, as I said, you are a single dad. So, how many children do you have?
Well, I do have three children. I have one daughter. Her name, actually, I'm not going to say their names on the show, but I do have three daughters. One is 16, one is 7, and one is 4.
Oh, wow. So, you said daughters, plural. So, you're a dad of girls, a girl dad.
Yes.
All right. So, how has that experience been being a girl dad? Like, has there been like challenges, or like, of course, you don't have experience with being a father of boys, but girls can be a handful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think each parenting experience is unique within its own right. However, so just as kind of to set the tone, so my eldest daughter does not live with me. She lives with mom, and my two youngest, the 7 and 4-year-old, do live with me. So yes, I am a single dad, and how I became a single dad was through a set of circumstances to which I kind of had to uh, take a look through a lens and make decisions which put me in the position to where I am today to be a single dad. Being able to from choices, in my previous relationship and realizing that the relationship wasn't working out, and then realizing that, the girls were not going to benefit from being with just mom, and I was gonna have to really step in and take on that parental role. And to the benefit of the girls, and fortunately, I have been able to step in and become that single dad. It definitely is a extremely hard experience as well. I would say I'm more of the rough and tough kind of person. So, being having to be a single dad to girls at that, I'm a very simple person. I have one pair of shoes. Or one pair of dress shoes, one pair of regular shoes. I have, a few outfits, so the idea, girls, sometimes want to change their outfits a couple of times a day, and then also, they want to, let's see, they just think differently as well. The way they, but I've also kind of introduced some of that rough and tough. I mean, for example, I always like to wrestle with the girls since they were babies. I used to kind of, be a little more rough and tough with them, and,
Mhm.
kind of treat them like they were boys in a sense. So I think that has influenced. So my eldest daughter, the 7-year-old, she is more of a tomboy,
Mhm.
and the 4-year-old, she is more of a girly girl. So it's so far, yeah, it's been good. I can't say that I would trade it for the world if I was put in the same situation again. Where I ended up, it's truly a blessing from God, and that's all I can say about that. Yeah.
So when there's usually a dynamic, there's mama's boys and there's daddy's girls. Are any of your girls daddy's girls, or
I would
are
have
they
to be
both?
honest and say no. I would say yes and no. I would have to be honest and say, it's not the typical fairy tale Disney dad type situation where, the girls just latch on to dad, and, or something like that. I've actually had to, just because due to my circumstances, I haven't been able to focus 100% on the girls all the time. It's been very, there's the financial aspect of it, there's you know, the relationship aspect of it. Just, I haven't been able to always be the most involved, quote unquote, I guess you could say Disney father or
Mhm.
Disney mother picture as you'd be kind of expecting, like, the tea parties, and all that fun stuff that you see in the movies. The reality of it is it's very robotic. The girls, they go to school, you have to get them up, they go to school, um, they come home, and and I work from home, so I also have the that flexibility of being able to get them off the bus, but it's very procedural sometimes. It's very robotic. And so I don't, being able to try and be the breadwinner as well as being that here and present parent as much as possible is difficult. So the relationship with the girls is not as 100% and not as fluid as I would like it to be. And also, when you add in the mix of the girls going to visit the other half of the picture, as there is a mom, she's just not present, but the girls demand a relationship with their mom, and I don't want to inhibit that. So, they, have that mixed, kind of scenario. So it's complicated. I guess you could say if you was a Facebook status for it, it's complicated, but it's you know, it definitely is always a work in progress. And I'd say my relationship is getting better by the day though.
Mhm. Okay, okay, I can see that. So kind of what you described is kind of like the same scenarios that moms find themselves in. And everyone, always, I always notice that dads, especially the ones that aren't involved, like they're always like, oh, you're a bitter baby mama, or you just want my money, you just want child support, you just want this, and they don't understand all that it takes to raise a child. It's not just all about just okay paying the rent and making sure the kid has food or they have like there's a lot that goes into raising children, and unless you have that experience, that one-on-one first-hand experience and having to be 100% responsible for a child, you're never going to understand. And I think
It
that's where a lot of guys get it, twisted. They think it's easy.
I think it's just a matter of guys are very matter of fact. We're problem solvers. We just like to fix the problems. And so, but a lot of times there's that accountability factor. So, a lot of times there's this unwillingness to take accountability for the actions that we've done. So at the end of the day, you've laid down with a woman, and the result of that is you have this child. And at the end of the day, the child didn't ask to be here. So it's easy for somebody. There's always, and it depends on, on the mindset. So yeah, I feel like it's always easy for the least engaged person to kind of just detach. So a lot of times, guys who are in relationships with women, I find who I guess you could say are not participating.
Mhm,
Um, they're not participating in the relationship, I guess you could say.
mhm,
Um, they would be, you know, when the women break up with them, they would actually have to go ahead and they detach, and then they try to use that against the women. And so it becomes like a war, I guess you could say. So
mhm.
yeah, I think
I
yeah.
definitely believe that, like, firsthand because, like, just in my personal situation with my son's dad, like, he basically tried to give me an ultimatum: be with him or be a single mom. So basically, it wasn't that he wanted to be a dad, it was about me, it wasn't about the child. So if you don't want me, then I'm not going to be in your child's life. And a lot of guys think like that. Either they think that, if you're with them, oh, I'll be the greatest dad ever. Or it's, I don't want, like, if you decide to move on, I don't want no other kid, other man around my kid, or, raising my kid, or all of these kinds of things, but you're not actually doing what you're supposed to do for the kid. Like, once that relationship is over and that person has moved on, you have no say so, especially when you're not there. You're not doing, what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think the resentment of, you know, and I've been in that on that side as well too. So, for example, with my with the first relationship where my eldest daughter who lives with mom, I find, it when you go into a relationship, I think a guy has a picture of what they expect out of this relationship. And when it doesn't go as expected, even though it would be in the child's best interest for the guy to just be like, "Yeah, you know what? It didn't work out, but my child needs me. It's, well, hey, this is not how I saw the relationship going. So
Mhm.
now the guy is stuck in a position to where they're on the outside and they may want access to that child. And sometimes, women will use the access to the child as a weapon.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, like in my particular case, I started paying for child support when my child was 6 years old because I personally felt that mom wasn't doing enough or communicating with me enough, in my opinion, that I was going to be able to partake, for us to be able to connect and me have a relationship with my child. For me, I thought we were going to have this co-parenting relationship, and it didn't work out that way.
Mhm.
So I was kind of using that. I wasn't contributing financially because I said, hey, I want a relationship with my child more than I'm getting. So by the time the child was 6 and mom put on child support, and at that point I said, okay, you know what? I came to the realization I'm not going to have the same connection that I thought I was going to have, but at the very least, um, I can have the financial piece there. Now, with that being
Mhm.
said, 50%, which is the financial piece, is not enough.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, that child needs a present father and mother, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Mhm.
So a lot of times people go through paying their child support and they're like, well, I paid my child support, but they don't understand the impact that that other 50% has that you can't see. Just you sitting with your child every night. Like, actually, what was the just before the show, this episode started, um, my 7-year-old and I, we spent about an hour together doing her hooked on phonics. And so between doing her flashcards and watching the DVD and just doing stuff like that, that is priceless. You can't
Yes.
put a value on spending time with your children and being present for your children. So they need that just as much as mom needs that $300 a week in their account.
Mhm.
So therefore, so that's kind of where, I land with that.
So you speak of paying child support for your oldest child. Do you receive child support for your girls?
I do not. So mom, so I to kind of set the stage for that. So I recently just finished a mutually agreed upon custody arrangement with the court. So I do have primary custody of the girls, physically as well as legally. However, we have visitation. So mom has these every other weekend, and I pretty much have them the rest of the time. It is it's a challenging situation because the girls want a better relationship with their mom, but that's the situation to which mom has agreed upon. And then financially speaking, that has led to um, you know, her due to her current job and due to her, in my opinion, her unwillingness to take accountability, she doesn't really have the resources to provide. So the next step for me is going to apply for child support and even if I'm getting $10 a month, that would be, just the accountability factor. Accountability is extremely important. It's
Mhm.
different if a parent comes and says, hey, I'm working 2 jobs, these are my finances, all I can do is $50 a month. That's okay if that's all you can
Mhm.
do and you're willing to participate. But if you don't want to participate and you keep dodging financial questions, you keep coming up with different excuses, and you're not taking that accountability, that becomes a problem. So I think for whether it's moms, single dads, it's a lot of the same challenges. I mean, there's little expenses that pop up that you don't even think about. I mean,
Mhm.
you have the
Definitely.
You have the typical expenses. Oh, my child wants pizza today. Okay, yeah. You can deny them 9 out of 10 times, but then on the 10th time, you kind of break down. Um, and then yeah,
They're
there,
constantly growing. They need clothes. They
yes,
need shoes. They
they
need.
need this, and it could literally be weeks. On one week, they're a size this. The next week, they're that next size, and they're just like, wow, this is a human being. Like this human being is literally growing. They're becoming, and it just starts to hit you more and more that your ability to be present for this individual, this future adult to be, is in my hands, my responsibility. So yeah, um, it's the financial aspect of it is extremely important. And no, yeah, the as of right now, there is zero financial support from mom.
Wow. And see, this is something you typically hear from women. This is usually the typical scenario that, women go through. So to hear that a mother who, just instinctually, just naturally, like, not wanting to be a mom or be present or even just willing to be like, look, you can have you can have the kids. Like, that's just really unheard of. Like, I mean, I understand there's certain circumstances where, the mom might be on drugs or, something of that nature, like where, because typically most single dads, they're a single dad because unfortunately their spouse, the mom, passed away. And by default, he becomes a single dad. But to hear that a mom willingly gives up the rights to her children, it's just, yeah, it's unheard of. It happens, but it's very rare. It's very, very rare.
Definitely agree. Yeah, it's definitely an unusual situation. In fact, I've run into so many situations where, how do you have the kids? Teachers, how do you have the kids? What happened? People ask, because it is a very unusual situation. So people have, it's been unheard of that, um,
A dad has custody, like,
yeah, that
of his
I've,
kid, especially for them to be girls. Because I've seen situations too where moms will give custody of the kids to the dad, but usually they're boys. They're like, okay, you're a man, you can teach them how to be a man. You know, I give you, custody of these kids to raise them. But
Mhm.
for you to be a dad raising girls as a single dad.
Yeah, it definitely is a unique situation. I feel like I'm getting better at it every day. And then but also, yeah, I have, I have someone in my life who I'm looking to, kind of replace the unaccountable mom. As I do have a significant other who I am, looking to and has taken a more active motherly role in the girls' lives and who can provide what I feel is what the girls need as upcoming future grown women and what they're going to need as perspective as a role model and what a woman in my opinion should be as and what the tools that they're going to need later on in life. So single dads, I think some raise their kids. Yeah, for me, I've always, it was never for me to be the intention of wanting to be a single dad. I think just like most people,
Mhm,
we didn't have that intention, whether it was
mhm,
through the death of a significant other or my situation. We didn't want to do this. So we wanted to do it with a significant other, with that partner that we created this and brought the child into this earth. And the idea is that we thought this was going to be a together forever kind of situation.
mhm.
And so now here we are. We're single dads, and for what it's worth, it's a very rewarding being a single dad. I guess the stigma of single parenting, I guess, is it heroic? I don't know. I think it's just something that we have to do. It's a responsibility that we have to take on because we recognize that the other person isn't going to do it. And
Mhm.
it's either that or our kids go into the system. And that is something nobody wants. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So you've spoken how, being a single dad has affected you, financially, economically, but how has being a single dad affected you mentally, psychologically? Like how has knowing that you are 100, well, I would say 95% you're responsible for the well-being of these children, like every single day. Every day you wake up, this is your reality. Like there is no other person.
It's it's a jarring, especially in the beginning, because a lot of times people are in relationships where they have a non-participating partner, so their partner may be in the house, but they're not actively involved. And
Mhm.
so you have the partners, and they say, "Oh, I feel like I'm a single parent. It's like I'm a single parent in this relationship."
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, that person is still there.
Yep.
Whether the littlest things, that security of knowing that someone else is there, no matter
Mhm.
how useless that individual possibly is, that
They do
security,
something. They do something. Because
there's
I hear
something.
people say that, they're married, but I feel like I'm a single mom. And I'm like,
Yep.
what?
Yeah. And
You're crazy for allowing that. That sounds like a you problem
or you
to
get the
me.
excuse, I stay together
For
with
the
my
sake of the
significant other for the
kids.
sake of the kids. And I mean, that's so 1980 something. I feel like you have to measure, what are the kids benefiting from
Mhm.
having this together relationship? Is it that the person is just super awesome and they're super awesome to the kids? So therefore y'all's relationship needs to take a back seat for the benefit of the kids, which is rarely the case. It's
Yes.
usually the significant other who is the non-participant is actually really not participating, and they're not as useful to the benefit of the growth of the children going forward, but somehow these individuals, the actual active parents, sit there and say, "Hey, um, I'm gonna go ahead and, I need to take over this situation." There's a there's a big leap, and it was hard for me to do it because I was stuck in that situation. I was in that relationship where, yes, this person laid and shared a bed with me. This person stayed in the house. I was the one going to work. I was the one coming home. I was the one preparing meals. I was the one. This person was not present. They didn't feel it was their responsibility. They didn't feel they needed to do anything. They weren't engaging with the children while I was at work. It was just,
Mhm.
so, but I felt that, well, I'm totally cool because some way, there's a benefit to the girls by having mom in the house,
Mhm.
and it's even harder because, yes, um, having, um, having mom in the house, you know, having mom in the house. Well, hold on one second. And I've been interrupted by my children to get them some soft cookies. These are the type of things like right now. Exactly right now. This is the type of situation you run into. You know, I can't, I don't have someone else to be like, hey, I'm doing this right now. So I need you to help me out and do this. It's kind of like I kind of have to juggle both. So yeah, it's like, kind of trying to incorporate, uh,
Your current circumstances into the episode.
exactly. So, it's a very, it's a very, different, um and you have to be able to be nimble and quick and
Mhm.
adjust and, be flexible, and, you go from active participant in one activity to active listener in another, or having to complete a task. um Maybe your kids just want some soft cookies, and that's
Mhm.
okay. Do you wish that you had the time to yourself to do it, but it doesn't always happen as you wish it did. So, one of the other things I do have a camera for those listening. Well, where was he when doing this episode? Well, I do have a camera, so I can watch what my girls are up to all the time. Little wise cam. It's not the best camera in the world, and but it gets the job done, and I can talk to them if necessary. And
Mhm. Yeah, when you're a
so
single
there's
parent, you
little
have to
ways
get
that
creative. You have to get creative.
yes.
Like
And that's the thing a lot of people don't think of as well. Like, for example, when it comes to self care, I've been trying to incorporate getting my walks in. So when the girls are asleep, if I want to go for a walk outside, do I leave my kids alone? No, but I will put a camera, and then I'll say, okay, let me, do go for in the parking lot, and then I'll come back in the house, check on them, go back out, and do more walk, and then come back in, check on them, go back out. And then when I'm done, I come back in. And in some cases, and they're old enough, they're all talking. So it's kind of like that balance.
mhm.
You have to being able to fight for that independence still, being a single parent and having time for yourself should be an Olympic sport.
Yes.
It's like, you know, um a lot of times people allow themselves to just fall by the wayside because they say, "Oh, I'm a single parent. I just can't do it. I gotta." And for the most part, they're not wrong. Um, because a lot of the times, yes, your time is taken up. I mean, between work and as the girls are school age, so being able to be and then they have different school activities. And a lot of times, yeah, you're not able to participate in those activities. So
Exactly.
it's kind of like it burns you inside, like, man, like, and they come to you, hey, can you come to my this or can you do that? And you watch the other parents who are happily married, and you got the soccer moms, and they can always be available to be present for their kids, and while the dad goes to work or vice versa. But in my situation, it's yeah, daddy don't got the PTO for that. I'm sorry. Um, because you might get a fever and I need that time for that.
Exactly. Doctor's appointments, school conferences, like all of those things you're doing that on your own. There's no other person, having to step in and be like, "Okay, you know what? I can take the day off. You go to work. I got this." There's no other person there to do that. So when it comes to, I know this is still kind of part of your financial and economical, but were there any sacrifices you had to make? Like, say for instance, like we were just talking about getting sick. Okay, you already said that you're a working dad. So has it affected your ability to work or the type of work you can do by you being a single dad and having to be fully responsible for your girls?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, even my previous job, I was an IT manager, and a lot of that required really dedicated, and not to say that just because you're in a certain job, you can't be a present dad. But at that point in my life, I was just becoming a single dad. So that transition really warranted that I take a position where I could kind of focus on my family first and work second, where work didn't really require me but for those hours. And yeah, I took a much lesser paying job. I work as a customer service representative, and so the financial aspect of my ability to earn right now is not where it used to be. And so it frustrates me because I'm used to being able to earn a whole lot more, and so being able to become creative and start thinking of different ideas of what can I do to earn more has really hit home because yeah, it scares me that
Mhm.
I'm earning so little and these kids are reliant upon me. My significant other is relying on me. And so I need to be able to find ways to earn more but right now, yes, the situation and you know, it's it definitely, being a single parent is not career friendly. I'll just say that.
No, it's not. Not
If
at all.
if your aspiration is to move up in a company and but yet you're gonna be the guy who says I have to be out at 5 o'clock when it hits 5 o'clock, or when you get in, I'm gonna be in and get out. Yeah, if as anyone knows, if you're gonna aspire to move up or into more higher paying roles, you
Managerial
have to make
roles,
you
things
have to
like
make
that.
yourself available to the company, and being a single parent does not always afford that luxury.
And
And
so this kind of goes back to what we're talking about in being 100% a single, parent. Do you have a village? Do you have support? Do you have, someone that not only helps you, financially, but physically with the girls?
I would say my village is, like a small southern town. You have a tumbleweed that goes by, and then there's a person that comes along every now and then. Um, my significant other, I would say, is the most, I guess you could say, physically present support system that I have. I have family who's, I guess, from time to time has been financially supportive. But outside of that, I don't have a village that a lot of people do have. They're single parents,
Hmm.
but they could drop their kid off at the mom's house. And then, if
Grandma's house
if they
or,
want to go, be you know if there's some women out there who just want to have fun at the club and be you know wild and reckless and young and act like they don't have any responsibilities. Yeah, I don't have that. So if I mess up, that's on me, and I am the only one. It's completely on me. So I am fortunate that I do have what I have, but to say that I would have say that if I have a village, yeah, there's no village. It's more like it's like a single person, wheelhouse, and then there's the co-pilot. But the co-pilot is also very occupied with their own tasks, and so I have to be mindful that yes, while that individual does care for the girls. They love the girls and would probably do anything in their power to make sure that the girls were safe. Their ability to, I have to be cognizant that, yeah, they can't rely upon that person 100% because they have their own stuff going on. So, um, it's pretty much the all day Joe show.
hmm
And it starts and stops with me. So and it's funny because my significant other is also a single parent. So when it comes to relationships, it's also been a very um unique having a significant other who is also a single parent. I feel has been a unique experience within itself because being able to say, hey, like, okay, cool. Like, if we can't, setting up a unique schedule to, yeah, we only see each other like once a week and then we only talk at certain time. Why? Because, yeah, our day is fully occupied. And, it's being a single parent, it goes beyond just the taking care of the children. Um,
hmm
it goes into your whole life is
Yes.
changed and drastically um everything you do, looking for housing, everything is being a single parent is not just oh, oh you have the child and you're responsible to it's a lifestyle. It's not for the weak.
It is
So if
not.
and you have to be mentally strong. You have to,
Yes.
when you're sick, and I'll be honest, I'm a guy when I'm sick. So there's some times when I have not gotten up, even my significant other, she's way better at it than I am. Uh, she gets up like, oh, I'm dying, she got her whole guts could be trailing alongside her, but she'll be still taking care of her son. I'm like, yo, y'all two got to figure this out. Daddy's sick right now, and I'm dying here, so y'all gonna miss some school until I get better, even though that's really not, I still feel that the single moms do it way better than I do. You know, just like, oh, you just gotta push through it, man. I ain't pushing through nothing. I'm about to die. So, um, but it is what it is. I mean, it's a part of, I think that's where, a woman's resolve, resilience,
Mhm.
comes into play. I mean, I think, yeah, women were just naturally born to parent. That's, I think, nature's role that they put them in. Not to say that women aren't can't be career minded and can't do all these other wonderful things that women do, but that's what nature originally, they were born to be moms, and so they're naturally going to be nurturers. Women are naturally going to be better parents, and so for being a guy as a single parent, you have to kind of learn how to be. Whereas I feel a woman can much more easily become a guy, become fill the male masculine role much more easily than a man can fill that motherly role.
Well, your circumstances prove that exactly, because yeah, your kid's mom are like more like a dude.
Yeah, like,
Most
eh,
dudes would be doing what she's doing. Like most moms would not be okay with not
yeah.
seeing her kids and being in their kids' lives on a regular
Oh, I
basis. And
work, so I can't see the kids on a regular basis. Like, what? Okay, well, I work too. I don't have a choice. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if I don't work, if okay, so if you don't work, it's okay. But if I don't work, it's okay. The girls don't have any help. So somebody has to take the accountability here and move forward. Even if I'm not, even if, and I say this to anybody who you might not be the best parent in the world, but if the person next to you is even worse than what you're capable of doing, then you need to step up and take responsibility because it's really advantageous to that child's development. What you're going to do for that child may, yeah, sometimes it's the lesser of two evils. It's like voting for president, you're
Mhm.
going to choose the lesser of two evils. But, I mean, for me, yeah, am I like the superhero dad that you see on TV? No, I'm far from it. But do I make sure that my girls are safe and that they're going to school and that they're doing what they need to be doing as best to my ability? Absolutely. So, that's really at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, being a single dad, it's very yeah, mentally it's when you paint the picture of like the mental health, it's almost like, yeah, you don't know, you kind of lose yourself when trying to do something else. I never imagined that I would be taking care of two girls on my own. Um, I always imagined myself as I'm going to work and then I get to come home and play dad, and then on the
Mhm.
weekends be a dad. I never imagined I'm going to work and then yeah, but I also have to be mom, but then I also have to play dad. I never imagined that I would have to fill both roles.
Mhm.
And women are soft. They need that emotional support. They need that nurturing. All kids do, but girls need it differently than boys do.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, yeah, it definitely is hard. And I can appreciate, for all that I was raised by a single mom.
Mhm.
So,
That was
um,
actually going to be my next question. Did you have a dad in your life, and is that what, encouraged you to step up and be there for your kids? But you just answered
no,
that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, my biological father was not present. I had I came up through a very, I guess you could say, in my very early childhood was a very traumatic and very, you know, unsettling childhood. I was adopted, and fortunately, I found stability. And I was raised by a single mom, and so yeah, it's capable. It's done. But I do feel there are lots of things that I'm looking for that I don't have. That if
Mhm.
I had that masculine role model growing up, if you know yeah, I feel being a single parent is kind of like a curse. It's not, I mean, it's not, I see, it can be a blessing in disguise, especially if it's beneficial to the children. But it really, if the kids I feel having grown up with a single mom, the kids really need both.
Mhm.
They need absolutely, and I feel like that's why a lot of women there are a lot of women out there who just meet with try to get men in their lives for financial gain and to for financial stability, because oh, they're putting money on the table. Well, I can't do that because I'm not a woman. So a lot of times women are looking to me, like if I'm out there in the dating pool right now and women are going to be coming to me, oh, what can I bring to the table financially? But I'm a single parent. So there's that dynamic. A
Mhm.
lot of times moms who are single moms, they can play that I'm a single mom, and then the guy who comes in with that pocket of cash, and so they kind of come that, hey, I'm the provider for a figure in the household. And then but a lot of times, yeah, they'll put up with, lots of nonsense to get that money coming in. Whereas in my situation, yeah, I can't just be like, oh, okay, so yeah, it's
Well,
um
actually, I think it's the opposite. I think women are more sympathetic towards single dads than men are sympathetic to single moms, because a woman, just because of us being who we are, like, we love to see dads being dads. And so, yeah, a single dad would have a better chance of actually finding a quality relationship with a woman who has herself together than a woman would, being a single mom and finding a quality guy, because a lot of times guys prey on single moms.
mhm.
They look at that as an opportunity to either, be controlling, be abusive, be, used. I mean, not all, but in most circumstances, yeah, when you see a guy getting with a single mom, it's usually he has ulterior motives compared to a woman who dates a single dad.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah. I definitely can see that ability where, like if you're at the playground or you're doing your kid's hair and, women will sit there. If you prioritize, I've been told, hey, prioritize the girls and, love will follow. But, it's not, I do feel that, yeah, a lot of times that financial aspect of, hey, it would be nice just to have that help, but you also want to be careful too, because you don't want to get into a relationship just for the sake of splitting bills, because that could be detrimental to the development of your children, of course, your own and psyche, and it's definitely not. Sometimes it's better off just being in the situation that you're in. And if you are in a relationship, you end up in a relationship, take your time.
Mhm.
Get to know that person, especially because now you're responsible for someone else. So,
Yeah.
kids get attached quickly. So when you introduce them and um, you bring them together, when you when you have a single and you bring someone else into that child's life, if a child doesn't see stability, they learn that it's okay to be unstable as an adult,
Yeah.
and so they don't seek that stability and as an adult. So it's very important, and that's why with the kid's mom, I have this rule. I said, hey, you can date whoever you want, but if you feel that this is going to be serious, make sure you date them for at least 6 months to a year before so you really know who this person is.
Mhm.
You don't so give them enough time for them to hang themselves, because most people really can't put on an act for long. Maybe a couple of months or something like that, but you're gonna see who they really are after about that time. Some people are pros at it and they can go longer, maybe wait a year or two, and then you'll see who they really are. I don't know. But from my experience, usually 3 to 6 months, if you're going to see that person has ulterior motives, it's going to show.
Mm.
And so giving just like, oh, you meet a guy this week or you meet a girl this week, and, you bring the, oh, these are my kids. And then that they don't work out, and the kids like, hey, where's that person? They're not coming around no more. But hey, here's here's this guy. And they're like, what? Like, it's like, and after a while, in fact, I dated a girl before I met my significant other, and that person's son told her, I found out through a mutual friend, her son had told her, "Hey, you can have boyfriends and I will be respectful to them, but I'm no longer going to get attached to them." And, because they
Wow.
were so used to
Okay,
guys
wow.
coming in and out of their life, and um it was such, just realizing the impact, from the perspective of, how they feel neglected, um, as a child, from a child's perspective, that they see this, they see that instability. Mom has different, or even it could be dads too,
Mhm.
so whoever it is can have multiple partners coming in and out the house. This is not cool. You got to be willing to do what it do, and you got to be willing to sacrifice that, and put that up to the side, and you really got to make sure now, okay, these kids need something serious. If you're gonna have multiple partners, that's fine, as you're an adult, but you have to make sure that your kids are shielded from that. And if you don't have the ability to shield, well, then you need to decide, is that something you want your kids being privy to?
Exactly. Well, this has been a very interesting conversation. I definitely love it. So we have come to my favorite part of the show. This is what I usually do for my Women on the Rise segment of the BFF Empowerment Podcast. But you know what? Since I have my first male guest, I thought I would kind of switch things up a little bit. So we're going to play What Is He Thinking?
What is he thinking? Yeah. What are his thoughts? Quick, fast, no blinking. What do you got?
All right.
All right. So, your first one is fatherhood is
Stressful.
stressful. Okay. At least you're being honest. Okay. Your second one is. Give me 1 second. My mind went blank.
I'm gonna say, if you're saying something, I can't hear you.
Okay. So, cookies are.
Delicious.
Okay. Don't tell me what to do because.
I'm grown.
Keep your hands off.
My stuff.
All right. And your last one, tell me something that will.
Tell me something that will come to fruition.
All right. Like it. I love it. Well, thank you, Mr. Joey Ortiz, for joining us on another episode of the BFF Empowerment Podcast. It was great having this very insightful conversation with you about single fatherhood and just getting to see what a day in the life is like for a single father.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's really been a pleasure. I hope that your listeners will get a little bit of a glimpse in the window into single fatherhood, although I don't think it's too much different from single motherhood. But getting it from the perspective of a man, I really appreciate the platform to discuss it on, and I think you are an awesome host.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast on all major podcasting platforms. Also, follow us on social media at BFF Empowerment Podcast. We are on Instagram. We are on Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, visit our website at bffempowermentpodcast.com. If you would like to be a guest on the Women on the Rise segment of the BFF Empowerment Podcast, send us an email to bffempowerment@gmail.com. If you have any episode ideas, tips, anything, you want to just say hi, we definitely like to hear from you. Be sure to leave us a review on any of the platforms where you listen to the podcast. Reviews are definitely appreciated. And thank you guys for joining us. See you next time.